Yeah. So, to your point, I think when we're being called to step into alignment, right? You're right, there is fear there. But even before we get the positive reinforcement from the universe, we actually have to do some personal internal work, right? So it's been 4 years of me doing a different podcast, battling with, you know, pushing the needle a little bit more, right? So I had to mentally get to a point where I was like, well, if this is my life and I'm the author and creator of my life, right? What do I have to lose, right? I could step into this thing that feels like alignment for me. And if it doesn't work out, at least I know that it didn't work out. Like, but I will never know if I never try, right? And that sounds so simple, but I had to get myself there first because sometimes, it's a hobby, it's an interest, but there's quote unquote no real positive reinforcement until you take the step. And sometimes even that positive reinforcement um doesn't come for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, right? So in between that time, you just have to get to a point where you're mentally like, you know what? I'm just going to do this thing. And I tell Spirit, I had a conversation with Spirit. I was like, okay, I'm going to start this thing, but if you're telling me that this is where I need to be, you keep making it louder. You've done a lot of work on me. I've released a lot of shadow. If you're telling me that this is where I need to step into, you've been prepping me for this my whole life. I've had the same interest my whole life. You've intensified it. I need you to make things happen. You could talk to the universe, you could talk to your spirit guides, you could talk to God, whatever that, force is that's within you and whatever you connect with as well. And I had that conversation and I kind of just went into it full throttle and I reached out to someone that I thought would be difficult to get on the podcast. I mean, I didn't have any sort of episodes lined up. I reached out to this guest and I said, hey, I listened to you on this other podcast. I would love to have you on my podcast. I just started it. I have another podcast, but this is brand new. I would love to have you on. And I, shoot my shot and shot my shot, I should say. And they responded. They came on the podcast. And that podcast had this that was my first sort of pseudo viral podcast episode I've ever had, right? I have about 13,000 views on YouTube, right? And to me that was like spirit, that was the universe telling me, yeah, you're on the right path. You asked us to show you, you asked for a sign, so here it is, right? And when you're on the right path, things are easier for you. Life isn't easy, right? But when you're flowing or when you're riding in the current that you're supposed to be riding on, you're not going against the current, doors and opportunities will open a lot faster for you. I mean, like I said, the other podcast I had was amazing, but the alignment on shifting dimensions is so drastic. The success I've seen on shifting dimensions in within the 4.5 months I've had it is drastically different from the success I've been trying to get to with the word to the wise for over 4 years, right? So I hope that answered your question. I think it's like, again, just to kind of summarize, it starts with you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to overcome that fear. And once you're like, you know what, I'm going to step into it, you can ask the universe to give you additional signs. Like if this is what you want me to do, then you need to not say make it worth my while, but you need to show me that I'm on the right path. And whatever that looks like to you will be what manifests.